Take a look at the headline on the Washington Examiner, a conservative online newspaper. Here it is. Panicked establishment gets ready for war against Trump. Yes, mainstream Republicans and even more conservative types are trying to figure out how to topple Trump. Red State, the conservative blog, asks this. Quote, it is a question that every supporter of every candidate should be able to answer if they consider themselves a thinking voter instead of a mindless, drooling sports fan. The question is this: what hypothetically would Trump have to do or say to cause you to stop supporting him? Here's a reminder of some of the things Trump has said.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists.
He's not a war hero.
He's a war hero.
He's a war hero.
5.5 years.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you.
She gets out and she starts asking me all sorts of ridiculous questions. And, you know, you could see there was blood coming out of her eyes. Blood coming out of her wherever.
I have friends that are Muslims. They're great people, amazing people. And most Muslims, like most everything, I mean, these are fabulous people. But we certainly do have a problem. I mean, you have a problem throughout the world.
What's the problem?
Well, you have radicals that are doing things. I mean, it wasn't people from Sweden that blew up the World Trade Center, Jake.
Okay, so Trump said all of that, and he's more than lived to see another day. With me now, Jason Johnson, Hiram College political science professor, and John Avlon, CNN political analyst and editor-in-chief of the Daily Beast. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good to be here, Carol.
Morning, Carol.
Nice to have you here. So, John, the Washington Examiner says some GOP stalwarts are preparing to do whatever it takes to bring Trump down. What exactly does that mean?
Well, I think it means you're going to see some of the big donors and some responsible Republicans and reform Republicans trying to form a coalition that can topple Trump. The reality is this: Donald Trump has been at the top of GOP polls for more than 90 days right now. And so it would be naive for anybody to think that he doesn't have a shot at being the nominee anymore. Whether he can win the general election is a totally different story. And that obviously is a Titanic, a Hindenburg type proposition. So some folks are going to try to stop that off at the pass. Makes sense.
So how would they do that? Would they run negative ads against Trump, their own candidate?
Well, you've already seen the Club for Growth, one fiscal conservative activist group, do that in Iowa and other places. I think you'll probably see more of that.
Okay, so Jason, I'm not sure any of that will work because supporters are behind Trump 100% no matter what. Listen to what one of Trump's supporters said just the other day.
How do you feel that he's making statements like that?
If Donald says it, I think it. That's how much I believe in it.
Okay, so this particular man, Jason, this particular man is 70 years old and he's never voted before, but he's going to cast a vote for the first time for Donald Trump. So go ahead, your thoughts.
This is both the strength and the weakness of Donald Trump, right? Like, he says great things. I don't think, I sort of agree with John here, Carol. I don't think negative ads are necessarily going to hurt Trump that much. He's on TV so much, he's so witty, he's so good off the cuff that most negative ads, he can counter them by getting on television the next morning. But the issue is, a lot of his voters are not traditional voters. They're not people who have come out on a regular basis. And ultimately, they're not the kind of people who go out and argue for 6.5 hours in an empty church basement in a caucus. So the question is going to be not whether Trump can stay high in the polls, but whether or not he can get the kind of people who have to be dedicated to win a caucus, because it's a completely different game than a primary.
Okay, so well, consider this, John. David Gergen said the other day that right now Americans are more interested in theatrics, not substance, and that eventually Trump's flip-flops on substantive issues could sink his candidacies. For example, Afghanistan. Trump told CNN yesterday he approved of the U.S. sending troops to Afghanistan to defeat the Taliban and al-Qaeda, which contradicted his earlier assertion that sending troops to Afghanistan was actually a mistake. So will those kind of things resonate louder with voters, John?
I don't think so. look, as Jonathan Swift once said, you can't reason people out of something they weren't reasoned into. And the gentleman you just had on air, clearly this isn't about reason. This is about identification. It's about emotion. I think what's clear is that Republicans and indeed the country needs to take Donald Trump's candidacy seriously right now, even if some of his supporters aren't necessarily thinking their way through the process. And simply hoping or believing it'll evaporate before the nomination certainly doesn't seem to be rooted in any trend we've seen. Now, when it comes to a general election debate, at that point, when people really start focusing and making compared to what decisions, will that serial record of flip-flops and complicated, confusing, disturbing statements start to make an impact? You're damn right it will.
I'm just laughing at the end of your statement there, John. So, Jason, Donald Trump, there's no doubt he is a serious candidate. So is it time to consider whether he might indeed make a good president?
Oh, well, I think we can consider that already. The answer would be no, an unequivocal no. He'd be a terrible president. I mean, first off, if you spend the vast majority of your time insulting huge swaths of people, refusing to engage with other groups of people, having neo-Nazis and Klansmen cheer at your rallies and you don't say anything about them, Trump has demonstrated that he lacks all of the soft skills necessary to actually be a functional president. But since when have primary voters necessarily cared about that? That's something for the general election to worry about. And I think that is why Republicans are worried. I think they realize that Trump could actually win this nomination, but does he actually have the skills to do this job? Many smarter, much more capable, and nicer people have tried, and they failed, and they don't see those skills in Donald Trump at all.
Okay, John, last word.
Carol, let me just add, though. Yeah, okay, go. Okay, listen, Donald Trump's success to date, though, there are things to learn. In part, his brashness, his non-political correctness, is a repudiation against the inefficiency and ineffectiveness of Washington. That's something that a reform candidate, a real candidate, can learn from and tap into. He's also taken on orthodoxies like carried interest and other things and moved the party massively on issues that seem to be sacrosanct. There are things you can take from Donald Trump's campaign and taking it seriously and translate to a credible candidate come a general election.
All right, I have to leave it there. John Avlon, Jason Johnson, thanks to both of you.